when it goes live.
I will, mate. All right, we are live. We are live again. Here we are. What day is it today? It's Wednesday, isn't it? Hump day. Middle of the week. Jim. And we are live. G'day, Andrew. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Jim. I'm pumped this week, actually. It's exciting to have Michael on board. And so once again, Jim, thanks for organising this.
No problem at all. We're absolutely delighted today, folks, to have a special guest, a really special guest with us, a great friend. Most people would know him as a presenter on Fox Sports. We know him as a buddy. But ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the one and only Mr. Michael Zappone. Welcome, Zappers.
Thanks very much, Jimmy and Andrew, for inviting me. I look forward to having a chat and hearing from some of your community as well.
Good on you, mate. How have you been?
Yeah, fantastic. Look, it's really easy to say it's tough, and we know everyone in Victoria is doing it really tough at the moment. I think we're seeing through the darkness and seeing that light at the end of the tunnel. Geez, it's been a long tunnel though, hasn't it? And we've had our ups and downs. Everyone that has been living in Melbourne, I've got a young family with 3 kids, and they've been homeschooling the whole time, and I've been trying to run my business from home, and we've all experienced the ups and downs of the last 6 months, but it looks like we're getting through, and everyone just needs to, I think, just get there in the next few weeks. We'll be back to some semblance of normality.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to it, Zappers. It's interesting. It's changed our world in the fact that we sort of know that we can work from home now. A little bit different, I suppose, in your business in PR, but in our game, a fundamental part of our business is being able to show people property, and that's been shut down, right? So we're in the 8th week of lockdown now, but I think what's coming is better than what's been. So we're all anxiously waiting for news on restrictions being eased a little bit so that we can get back to doing what we do best, and that's showing people houses and selling property, right?
Absolutely, and really feel for you guys and the industry, because you need to touch and feel that product, don't you, that you're trying to sell, and it's very hard to do it online. Let's hope we can get that industry back up and running very quickly.
Yeah. Fingers crossed, Michael. Fingers crossed, mate. Now, we know that you're a presenter on Fox Sports, right? But you also run a public relations business as well. So can you tell us a bit about that as well and what that involves?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, look, I've been working with Fox probably the last 15 years. Very lucky to do that and enjoy the sport of football, and have been working with them and living in the dream, really, of what I've always wanted to do as a kid. Grew up playing soccer in the northern suburbs in Fawkner. I grew up playing for Fawkner
Okay.
Soccer Club, and grew up and spent all my childhood there. And my parents still live in that area, so a lot of fond memories of that. But continued to develop my career as when I left school, I started working as a radio journalist, and then eventually worked my way into PR and worked for a lot of big companies. The last one I worked for was Telstra, and I worked at Telstra for 5 years, managed the day-to-day media and communications for a part of the business there, and that involved taking media inquiries, promoting the things that Telstra was doing in the marketplace, and after sort of 20 years working in different corporate environments, I decided to start up my own business. So that's been running for 2 years now, and basically we help businesses tell their story, and whether that's through traditional media like the newspapers or the radio stations or the television networks. It's about telling a good story and getting coverage for our clients in those news outlets, or it could also be helping clients communicate in a different way through social media. And we've seen over the last decade the advent of so many different social media platforms. So if you're a business looking to talk about what you do and share what you do, you can do that in so many different ways these days, whether it's on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, in terms of thought leadership. There are so many different avenues for people to consume that type of content these days. So we help businesses tell their stories. A little bit different to marketing. It's more about earning the coverage and creating the story. So you're not paying for that ad or that ad space. It's about creating some really good stories that people might be interested in.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a really interesting space, Zappers. And, you know, we look at how it's changed even in our business, the way that we promote property. You know, I remember getting really excited back in, it must have been 91 or 92, when the first ever colour newspaper came out, and we were the first agents to ever advertise in colour. Prior to that, we advertised with line drawings. They were sketches of the properties, right? So we had black and white sketches, then we went to colour sketches, then we went to real life photography, right? And I remember the first time we ever put a board up with a spotlight on it. It was in Waverley Street, Essendon, and Bill Carter, you know, couldn't wait for it to get dark so we could drive past just to have a look at the board with a spotlight on it, right? And it was about telling the story differently. And then we fast forward and we see the changes that have happened in our business by way of traditional print media, which is where agents used to typically advertise. And then, of course, with the advent of the internet and the portals and all the rest of it, nowadays you're crazy if you don't advertise a property on the portals because you're not going to get the best coverage. But just as a question, Zappers, to you, doing what you do, with people, we've got a lot of people watching that run small businesses, a lot of clients of ours that we've gotten to know over the years. How important nowadays, in your eyes, are social channels compared to traditional, let's say, print media?
Oh, look, it's becoming more and more important. And if you look at where advertisers are spending their revenue, it's shifting online. And we're not talking about small businesses here necessarily. We're talking about the big global firms. And if you look at that macro level, the loss of revenue for television networks globally has been immense, and it's only gathering pace. So what they're seeing is global advertisers are spending money on portals like Google to ensure that your business is coming up in a search when people are searching for local hairdressers, as an example. So what you might have spent in your local leader newspaper, you're now shifting to an online network. So, and we've seen the advent of a lot of change in the media landscape. So if you look at leader newspapers as one example, I'm sure, Jimmy, you would have spent a lot of money in the community newspapers in the past. And that's now moving online. And leader newspapers announced just earlier this year a closure of their traditional mastheads, and you no longer will receive a leader newspaper in the mail as we all used to for many years. That's all now moving online from their end as well, and we see that advertising revenue move to that online environment also. So if you're a small business, it's really important to think about your target audience. And if you're in the restaurant space, as an example, you know, bringing your business to life on Instagram is a really nice way to tell your story, and images of, you know, tasty food and desserts, and is a really easy way to sell your story. So moving your efforts to an online environment, crucial, I think, for any small business owner. And it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money.
Right. And you know, it's interesting, you know, we touched on this last week because we had a guest on, a friend who's in hospitality, and we spoke about how things have shifted and how this lockdown has made a lot of business people reassess how they do business. And particularly, you mentioned restaurants. You know, we look at how they've had to adapt and evolve and change really quickly to ensure survival and get onto that space, onto that social media space, to say, hey, we're here, we can deliver meals to you, we can prep them, we can get them out to you, so that they can keep their chefs working. Okay, they might not have their floor staff, and we know that they're doing it tough, but at least they're doing everything they can to just sort of hang on to survive this downturn, right?
Yeah, and having that engagement in the community is really important. I live on the Mornington Peninsula, and we have made an effort as a family to make sure we're continuing to support our local restaurants. So, you know, and I think that goodwill exists throughout our community in Victoria. And instead of going to the pizza restaurant and sitting in and having a pizza, we can't do that at the moment, but we'll make sure that at least once a week we'll be supporting our local restaurants by ordering online and picking it up from the restaurant as a takeaway option as well. And I find that the business that are best at their local marketing and storytelling are the ones that engage in a two-way conversation. So Instagram is a really nice way of doing that as well.
If we need to know what Jim's doing, just check Instagram.
You what?
we know. Sorry, Jim.
Check the stories.
100%. Check your story. We know what Jim's having for lunch, dinner. No matter what, we know what he's doing. So
that's right.
It's a great way of engaging. Now, Michael, I've got a really important question, and this is something that might help me as well. Now, as real estate agents, we call a lot of auctions, right? And we obviously do them live. So we go outside, we've got about 50, 60 people that are watching us. And before I go outside, Jim always goes, Andrew, slow down and make sure that people understand what you're saying, right? Now, you do this every single week, and it's obviously live on TV and so forth. Now, how do you keep calm under that pressure? Is there any advice you can give even myself or anyone else that's out there as well?
I think it comes with experience. Practice makes perfect, as they say. And the more you do it, the more you become comfortable with it. You've got a great role model there in Jimmy, because you see Jimmy up on the stage in front of 1,500 people when Melbourne Victory has its functions, and Jimmy's been doing that since day one. And I'm sure the first time Jimmy did that in front of 1,500 people, it's a different environment. It's not an auction. It's a big ballroom. Everyone's looking at you. You're on a big screen. I'm sure Jimmy had a few nerves the first time he did that. I had a few nerves the first time I was on Fox Sports because that was different for me. My background was in radio. So nerves are absolutely normal and natural. And I think you just lean on your experience and your practice. And if it means you're sitting in front of a mirror, practicing what you might say, being comfortable in your own skin is one thing. The other thing I found really helped me, and one of my producers said to me in the early days, was watch yourself back. So record what you're doing. And if the TV show's on, record it. When you get home the next day, watch it back. Because what you'll pick up are the little nuances of your facial expressions, the ums and the ahs. You might not think you and ah a lot, but we all do it naturally. And watching yourself back highlights just how many times those little things happen. So even your hands and your expressions, it's good to use your hands a little bit, but maybe not too much. So everybody has their own little style, but watching yourself back has really helped me improve when you get up in front of a camera or up on stage. But, with Melbourne Victory, I'm lucky enough to have worked with them closely over the last 10 years as well. And I remember the first year getting up and emceeing those functions was terrifying. But now it's obviously a lot easier for me because I've been there and done that quite a few times.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Zappers, I've had the good fortune of sharing the stage with you many, many times, and I've got to tell you, just watching you, I've learned a lot because you're a pro at what you do, and for someone that did do a little bit of media training, I always say, and I say to Andrew and to our other auctioneers and the young guys coming up, and maybe this is something you and I can talk about, Zappers, to get you in and do some media training for some of our crew. But I think it's really important. There goes the again, right? But it's really important, I think, that people invest in themselves. And as you say, some really good points there, not just for anyone in real estate, but for anyone that's in business and is talking to the public. You're the front line. You're the one that they're going to meet and greet, or you're going to meet and greet and invite people in to your business. And people naturally like doing business with someone they like. And so if if you can have a little bit of being natural about yourself and your personality coming up, that's going to go a long way. Now, Zappers, I've got a question for you. In 2016, you've hosted some major events and you've compared some great events, and you've had the good fortune to go to some events that I've only dreamt about. But in 2016, for Channel 7, I think it was, you got to go to the Rio Olympics and compare and host some events there. But then in 2018, you got to go to Russia, and you were a compere and a host for Optus TV of the biggest event that I want to go to, a FIFA World Cup. Now, amazing experiences, no doubt. Was one better than the other? Were they different? Did they give you a different buzz? Tell us a bit about them.
I'll let you in on a little trade secret, Jimmy. And with 2016 and Channel 7, it's fantastic to work with the 7 Network, and I was lucky enough to work with them at the Commonwealth Games as well in 2018 on the Gold Coast. And we should have just finished the Tokyo Olympics. Yeah. However, we know what's happened, and at this stage, it's going ahead next year. So look forward to working on that as well. But with the way that it was set up in 2016, the majority of the crew and on-air talent were based in Sydney. So I worked as a commentator, if you like, but in a hub in Sydney. So we were in Sydney for a month and working off television studios in Sydney. So unfortunately, I wasn't in Rio, but the likes of Bruce McAvaney and Dennis Cometti and the main commentators were over in Rio. However, all the other hosts, so Hamish McLaughlin and Mel McLaughlin and Jim Wilson and all the TV, a lot of the studio hosting work was done out of their main studio in Redfern. So we were living in Redfern in Sydney for the month and working in the middle of the night shift, and because a lot of the sports were happening during the middle of the night. But what an experience here, working on an Olympic Games is there's so many emotions and so many fantastic stories of every athlete that goes to the Olympic Games, struggles and works their entire life to get there. And it's such a wonderful event, the Olympic Games, and I really hope that we can celebrate again next year at Tokyo. But yes, Russia, I was there, and it was just, as you said, one of those experiences that you'll remember for the rest of your life. And my role for Optus TV at the time was just to work with the Socceroos, so follow the Socceroos around and cover what was happening in the Socceroos camp. So the Socceroos were based in a city called Kazan. I'd never heard of Kazan until the World Cup came up. And what a city it was. It was about 1 million in population, but as is the case in a World Cup, it's visited by nations from all over the world, fans from all over the world, competing nations, and it's just a party atmosphere for the whole time you're there. And we did travel around, and when the Socceroos travelled, we travelled with them and followed them to their different games. And it was a great tournament. Beautiful people in Russia, people that have gone through a lot in their lives. It's not an easy country to live in. A lot of poverty. A lot of people who would love to move out of Russia, but it's very difficult for them to do so. But just so welcoming, never felt in danger at all. A lot of people were talking about, it was a dangerous place to be, but I loved it, and I'd love to go back and visit one day with the family.
Fantastic.
Yeah, my brother-in-law actually went for the World Cup as well in Russia, and he's gotten, he doesn't follow soccer at all, right? He just went there because he wanted to get the experience and so forth. And I wish I went, right? But he said to me it was the most beautiful country that he's ever been to, and they've done a fantastic job holding the World Cup. So yeah, that would have been an awesome experience.
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. Now, Andrew, have you got any questions? I've got a question that's just come through.
You can ask yours, Jim. Shoot away.
I've got a question that's just come through, Zappers, from one of our clients, and this lady says that she's got a 17-year-old that wants to pursue a career as a presenter, as a journalist, I suppose, in the media. and practices in front of the mirror, took on board what you said before. Sorry, I'm looking down. I'm just reading the message on my mobile. Wants to pursue a career, loves the media, loves presenting, loves talking in public, in front of people. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, absolutely. Just try and get as much experience as you can. So whether that's, if you're just leaving school, I presume you'll try and pursue that avenue of study. So studying in journalism or something similar to that, media studies. There are a lot of different courses these days. So I'd encourage you to go through university and get some experience there, but also follow your passion. So if you're passionate about football, as I was at the time, I sort of volunteered and did some work at a radio station when I was in year 11 and year 12, and that opened doors for me later on. So now with the advent of websites, there's always opportunities to write articles for different websites or as an example, Football Victoria, just using one example in my area, Football Victoria, I know once the season recommences next year, if football is something that you're interested in, approach the guys at Football Victoria. They have people that go out to games and report on games and commentate games. And even if you've got no experience, that's a really good way to start getting the experience and go out and commentate NPL games or NPL 1 games and host videos for Football Victoria's website. And that starts getting you some live, real experience that you can then start building and fine-tuning your craft. At the start of the season last year, we did a little bit of work for Football Victoria, and we had Simon Hill come down and host a night with all the commentators that were going to be commentating games for Football Victoria this year. And they're the sort of experiences you can get and exposure you can get, learn from the best. And Simon was very generous with his time and gave some advice to those young commentators who were looking to get into that field. So get as much experience as you can, be prepared to work for very little or nothing and volunteer your time just to get that real experience. And, we all did it. Don't set your expectations too high early on. Just get as much real life experience as you can.
Yeah. That's fantastic advice. I think in any industry, you have to just, as you said before, try and work as much as you can in that field, and you have to work for nothing more than do so, because just getting experience, especially, I suppose that question, Jim, is someone that's quite young, as you said, and no better time for him to get involved and get some experience. And I'm sure over years it'll be fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. And just the other things that is, I know you lived close by. We happen to live sort of close by to each other. But then I think about a year or so ago, your family, you decided to change lifestyle, sea change, let's call it a sea change, and you moved down towards the peninsula. Now, what we're seeing at the moment, and a lot of comments we're getting from clients and questions, because they're in lockdown and a lot of them are working from home, they realise that they can actually work from home. And they only have to go into the office potentially maybe once a week or twice a week. So a lot of them have been considering and saying to us, you know what, I think I might rent my house out, or I might sell my house, and I'm going to go down to Torquay, or I'm going to go down to Sorrento, or whatever the case may be, and buy a little place down there. Now, you've got a young family, you've got 3 school-age children, your wife also works, and you made the move. How's it been? Have there been any sort of standout challenges, or has it been smooth sailing?
Yeah, look, it's been great. We've really enjoyed it. We've been living here for 18 months now, and the last 6 months, obviously, everybody's been restricted to where they can travel, and it's been something that we've really enjoyed the fact that we've been here on the peninsula, because it's a great spot to be stuck in, if you like. But you're right. Yeah, setting up my own business was one of the things that helped me make that decision, because I realised I could have that flexibility and commute to Melbourne when I needed to commute. I had a little office space in Melbourne, but I found that when I was living in Melbourne, I wasn't really needing to go into the office every day. So my work involved going out and seeing clients and at their offices, and my football work meant that, you know, I was always at a football venue. So I was lucky in working for Telstra. Telstra was ahead of the curve in terms of embracing technology. So probably 5 years ago at Telstra, we all had started this flexible work arrangement. And as a manager, we were all encouraged to work from home at least 1 day a week, and setting that example amongst your team. So because if your manager was doing it, then the people in that team felt comfortable doing it as well. So we actually had been doing it for quite some time. And that then sort of led me to realise that I didn't need to be in the head office at 242 Exhibition Street every day. I could do my job from home as well. And the use of video conferencing at Telstra, we were probably a little bit more advanced because we had access to that technology. So teams became used to doing that 3 or 4 years ago. And now what everyone is realising because of the pandemic is that, yes, you don't have to be in the CBD office 5 days a week. So that sort of really helped me make that decision early on. And living on the peninsula is, a good hour's drive on a good day, especially at the moment. You can get in under an hour. But if you set your day up properly, especially when, you know, things were normal, I was still finding I was in Melbourne 2 or 3 days a week, and that was manageable, more than manageable, because living in an environment like this, made it worthwhile.
Fantastic. And the kids have settled in well?
Absolutely. Yeah, they love it. We're lucky, you know. I think you're familiar with the area, Jimmy. It's, you know, a few kilometres to the beach, and we're living on a few acres, so that's great. They've got space to roam around. They've settled in. Kids are pretty resilient, you'll find, and they set into their new football clubs and their new schools very easily. So everybody's really happy.
Fantastic. That's good. Andrew, have you got anything to add, my friend?
Jim, I'm just looking at Tom Panos's message saying, "What's wrong with Melbourne Victory?" And he's turned around and said, "I'm a big fan of Sydney, but Melbourne Victory apparently has got some issues." And I've disliked his message.
Is that a question from Tom Panos, or is it just a straight out comment?
I think it's a bit of both. I think we'll be back this year or next year.
I'll add this. I think it's definitely a rebuilding phase, and clubs would prefer not to have to rebuild. And if you look at the AFL and my team, Geelong, I think one of the beauties about Geelong is they actually haven't had a rebuilding phase. And if you're a sporting club, the challenge is to continue to top up your squad so you never have to go through a rebuilding phase. And Geelong, I think, it made the top 12 out of the last 14 years or something. So that's quite extraordinary. And I think that's what Melbourne Victory have been very good at. Again, Melbourne Victory's record over the last 15 years has been outstanding. But yeah, this year has been their poorest year on record. And I know that Anthony DiPietro, who's been on this meeting, Jimmy, doesn't shy away from that. And they know that they've got a big job ahead of them. So yeah, we hope that they can rebuild quickly. Grant Brebner's the new coach, and he's got a big job ahead of him over the next few months to sign players. But it's a really tough environment at the moment for all A-League clubs, and you'll see what's happening at Perth Glory at the moment. Their owner, Tony Sage, came out the other day and said, you know, he's standing down all of his players because the collective bargaining agreement hasn't been finalised yet. So nobody knows what the salary cap will be next year. And Tony Sage would argue that, you know, he's poured millions and millions and millions into his club, and he needs that certainty before he plans for next year. So it's really tough in the sporting environment at the moment as well. We talk about all types of industries being impacted. You know, if we stand back and think about football or AFL, you know, there have been no crowds. That's a huge loss of revenue for all the clubs. And if you're a member of Melbourne Victory, you're thinking about next season, if your membership fees come in and you think, well, I'm earning a bit less this year, where am I going to save money? I might not buy my membership. I might not even be able to go and watch the game. So they're the challenges that Melbourne Victory and other A-League clubs are facing. It's a really really tough time, and the next few months will be a lot of work will be done by all those clubs to try and get them back up and running for next season. It looks like the league will start in January next season for the next A-League season.
Fantastic. Now, Zappos, I've just realised that we've been going for almost 40 minutes, and I told you that this will go for 15 or 20. So, so it's amazing how time just flies when you're having fun, my friend.
I'm more than happy to chat to you guys, and yeah, as you said, it's great to chat and lots to talk about.
No, fantastic. Now, look, what we might wrap it up, but what we're going to do, Zappos, if it's okay with you, we know that you specialise in media relations, in strategic communications, in media training, in investor relations. Can we share your business details on our post so that any of the people watching, any of our clients that are in business and need a little bit of help, whether it's with promotion, at least they can just reach out to you, have a chat and see whether there's some parallels there that you can perhaps give them some advice and perhaps work with them. Is that okay?
Absolutely. I'm more than happy to work and help anyone that may need some help in that area, Jimmy. That'd be great. Fantastic, mate. Well, Zappos, on behalf of Andrew, myself, and the people watching, mate, we thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute blast. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, mate, and hopefully we'll get to see you very, very soon and share a coffee. Hopefully you're allowed to head down here. Daniel Andrews allows you to move more than 5K away from work or your home, Jimmy, and we'll grab a coffee on the peninsula. Thanks for having me. Sounds great.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it, mate. All the best, bud.
Thanks, mate.
Guys.
See you soon. Bye.